What's up, YouTube land? Xeno Gaming here, and welcome back to another episode of my team. Episode number 4. We have the Australian Grand Prix home race, and it's good that this track is back at the start of the season. Not quite the opener, but third race is good enough. But anyway, here we go, and getting straight into it. We'll having a look to see if we could make any upgrades yet, but we're not quite making enough money race to race to upgrade the facilities just yet with how expensive the facilities are at the minute, because they're all on level 1s already, so you know it's difficult, but we'll sort through that. Heading into the weekend, however, and we have a bit of weather to deal with, but we got to upgrade it on the chassis, on the I think that was on the under tray, but you can see there in the race, wet race incoming, so there's the performance comparison of the cars. I've been jumped by a few teams, heading though now into qualifying. There was a wet practice in the first practice session, and tried to just get used to the car in the wet, and yeah, I felt comfortable enough to go into the weekend. It's really my first proper running in the wet on this game was in that practice session. But here we go, straight into qualifying now, and we got our first lap in Q1, and we do a 1 minute 19.3, quicker than Albon, slower than Guan Yu, so we'll see how that all unfolds. Coming here on the second lap, and we're up by 2/10 after a couple of corners, but we spin here out of turn 4, showing it is pretty difficult to get used to the handle of the traction still on this game. Third race in. And now we got the car on a flying lap. We're going to show you the full flying lap here of this new circuit at Albert Park. I was lost there for a moment. Turn 1, 5th gear, and you can nail the throttle through turn 2 a little bit better than, and get a bit better traction than actually previous games, which is weird to say considering how the traction is on this game. Down to 3rd gear for this corner. You got to turn in earlier on that new turn 3. Turn 4, we missed the apex there a little bit. That's okay. Through turn 5 is flat, and now coming into the new part, turn 6 is very much quicker. 6th gear instead of 5th gear, and then this long run down the back straight, and that turn 9 that used to give you so much trouble no longer there, and now into the new turn 9. I guess I don't know exactly if this is I think this is turn 9 and turn 10. And what a corner this is, and always has been, and I'm glad they didn't get rid of that part of the track. And now coming into this much more difficult braking zone now, tighter corner, tighter apex, and we nail it there, coming into this fast right, and we miss the apex there. You can see we lose a lot of time heading into the penultimate corner, turn 13, hitting the apex there nicely, and final corner, and tricky to get on the throttle at that final corner using all the space in the exit, and across the line with a 4.5 improvement, but is that enough for Q2? You can see Leclerc fastest here in Q1 from his teammate, and the 2 Red Bulls, the 2 Mercs, Alonso, and then you can see a bit mixed after that, and then 17th and 18th for our 2 cars. So out-qualified Piastri for the first time, but we're out in Q2 once again. So that's a little bit disappointing here at the home race. But anyway, that's life, and we'll move on to the race. So I'll give it to Crofty, and he'll break it down for you.
Welcome to the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne for what no doubt will be an intense day of racing. We're a stone's throw from the enormous Port Phillip Bay for today's race at the 3.28-mile Albert Park circuit. It's a bumpy racing surface here, and the 14 corners could prove especially difficult in the wet conditions. So watch out for a safety car at some point during this Grand Prix. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and a very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Perez, George Russell and Hamilton, Bottas, Fernando Alonso, Norris and Kevin Magnussen, Ocon, Mick Schumacher, Pierre Gasly and Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Joe, Jackson, and Oscar Piastri. Vettel, Albon, Stroll, and Nicholas Latifi. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. It's not going to be plain sailing for our drivers today, although with the sky falling as it is, perhaps sailing isn't too far from the truth. Natalie Pinkham, good to have you with us here today. Your thoughts?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? As a driver, there are three big things to worry about when racing in these conditions: standing water, tyre temperature, and visibility. Judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
So we have a very wet Australian Grand Prix. You can see full wet race, and it wants us to do the one stop, split it right down the middle, 14 laps on one set, 15 on the other. So 29 lap. It's going to be a difficult race in the rain. First wet race on the game, the new game. So with the much more difficult traction that we have on this year's game, it's going to be very tricky. So yeah, not really looking forward to it, because I'm still just not used to how this new handling model, not used to the cars yet. It's going to take a few races to get up to speed. At least though, we have qualified our teammate, so that's one positive. You can see really struggling for traction and wheel spin there on the this start. I was really trying to pump the heat into the tyres on this formation up to make the start as best as possible. So we'll see how we go here. We're going to line the thing up and probably stopped a little bit too early, but that's okay. And starting from P17 here for our home Grand Prix, we've got the Australians 15th, 17th and 18th on the grid. We're ready for the 5 red lights, and let's go here in Melbourne. You can see immediately the difficulty with traction and wheel spin. Third gear, we're wheel spinning. Fourth gear, we're still wheel spinning. Fifth gear, I think we're alright. But we get past Guan Yu immediately into turn 1. He goes back down the inside. He goes across the track, across the curb, and we're able to drive around the outside and pick up a position there. So that's a nice start. At least gain one position. Sonoda's had a poor run out of turn 2. Ricciardo passes him. We're trying to go to the outside. He squeezes us up right up against the barrier. But now we're looking around the outside. Yeah. And we're now got the inside 4, turn 4. And we're still side by side with Yuki. And we got a big moment on the rear. He goes back up our inside, we go on the outside. He's very slow, there's contact, I think. We're a little bit off the track, but we're through on Yuki Tsunoda. So that was very brave there to stick it around the outside of turn 5 of all corners. And we get the move done, and this is a corner that's very tricky. You can see the oversteer I'm getting struggling with traction through turn 8. As Tsunoda now is looking to get back past. And that was throughout the course of the race, the one corner I really struggled with, and not had a great line through there. So Yuki's all over the back of my rear. We've already lost 2 seconds to the cars ahead, but we are into 15th position, so it's a good start as Ricciardo battling quite heavily with Gasly, and I can't quite see the other car. It looks like a Haas. I think it is a Haas. So Gasly's now got the inside. It was Mick Schumacher, and these two are still going side by side. Ricciardo's now got the inside for the last corner as the home fans stand up and cheer for their man, one of their 3 on the grid. And now we've got troubles because Yuki's had a much better exit out of the last corner, but we managed to hold him off here into turn 1. So yeah, that is alright. But now as we move here to lap 3, and we'll see what's going on. We got Yuki right behind me, Charles Leclerc leading the Grand Prix, I'd say, with that fastest lap. And he's going to dive into the pit lane. Don't know why. He must have picked up damage somewhere. I don't know when. So Yuki's into the pits for whatever reason, and just release the pressure a little bit. We can see we're already 3 seconds behind, pretty much. Gasly ahead, so we're really losing time to the cars ahead. You got yellow flags here now, and I don't know what it is. Now this corner here, I feel like I was so much weaker than the AI through turn 8 because I couldn't get the power down as early as I wanted to. But yeah, still don't know what the yellow flags are at this stage, but we're about to find out as we're going to get to a retirement announcement. And it is Oscar Piastri. It's 2 consecutive races our teammate has failed to finish, so that's really disappointing, and we'll have to move on without our teammate in this Grand Prix. And you can see we're now on lap 6. You can see Gasly's now 5 seconds ahead. Vettel's closing the gap. We got yellow flags once again up ahead. And now it's Esteban Ocon who is out of the Grand Prix. And we have a bit of a moment there in traction as we pass him. But we move into 13th place at least. That is the one positive. But we just haven't got the pace in this Grand Prix to keep up with the other cars ahead. And we're falling into the clutches of Vettel and Latifi. But here comes Sebastian Vettel now on lap 10. And he gets a pretty good run coming out of turn 10 into turn 11. Vettel looks to the inside. I just didn't expect him to go down the inside so easily, and I didn't really feel like I needed to defend, but obviously I did, and Vettel outbrakes me quite easily and moves into 13th place. So great move there by the 4-time world champion, and he moves into 13th. I'll drop back to 14th. It's a great move, showing the AI can overtake without the DRS, which is pretty good. Pretty cool, and you can see I'm just struggling fighting the car. You can see Vettel's already gapped me by 3 seconds. By the time we get to lap 14, Latifi's all over my rear. I've got no pace at all. We've got Ricciardo now in the pit lane. These guys are starting to do their first pit stops. Ricciardo's in, and Gasly as well. So we had Magnussen pit. So these guys, Magnussen and Alonso, have already done a pit stop and they're out ahead of us. So it just shows how slow we've been in this Grand Prix. As I've decided to convert the strategy to a one-stopper at this stage as well. We've got Latifi in the pits, Vettel in the pits, and I believe I can beat those guys around me, Latifi, Vettel, by just going to the end of the race, because the tyre wear is pretty good at this stage. They're only at about like 30%, maybe high 30s, low 40s, so I'm like, yeah, I can get to the end on this set of tyres. And the pace was actually good. It was improving throughout the race because of the fuel load burning off, obviously, and I was getting more comfortable with the car. We got lap 19 here. We've got Magnussen 5.8 seconds ahead, so we'll see what Jeff has to say. Not Jeff.
Okay, Magnussen ahead. And gap to the car in front is 5.7 seconds. They're on a fresh set of inters. Okay, they've got 4 laps on their tyres. They seem to have an issue. Your last lap time was a 1 minute 31.2. Okay, so you're gaining by 1/10 a lap.
So as soon as by the way, that's not, I can't remember the engineer's name, but I know it's not Jeff. But yeah, as soon as I heard Magnussen had an issue, I just got like, something came, you know, I was incentivized to try and catch him, and I started driving. I felt like more consistent, much quicker. Here we're on lap 21. We've got Ricciardo and Gasly. They've closed back up to me, so we've cleared those. We've cleared them, and you know they're behind me, but they're not threatening me too much. And you can see Ricciardo did not get a good exit out the last corner. So now Gasly is attacking Ricciardo here into this last corner and into the first corner. Sorry, and I didn't do a great first corner, but Gasly is through on Daniel Ricciardo for 10th place and that World Championship point. So we're now here on lap 23. We're closing the gap to Magnussen. You can see 3.7 seconds. Don't know if it's going to be enough though to get anywhere near him by the end of the race. But here you can see 4th gear, 5th gear. We're just really careful on the throttle, and that doesn't matter because we're straight into the barrier.
Wow, that was a heck of an impact. Let me know you're okay.
And yeah, that's how harsh this game is on traction this season. It's really difficult to get it 100% right, and yeah, that was tough. That's tough on the swallow. That's an 8th place finish, potentially 7th if we could have caught Magnussen. Actually, we were 9th, so yeah, 8th place finish potentially if we could have caught Magnussen, which we were catching. Yeah, and just a difficult one. You know, I was really careful all the Grand Prix out of that corner, and this particular lap it just bit me hard, threw me straight into the barrier. No chance of catching that one out of the Grand Prix. So that is the Grand Prix, double retirement for Zeno Racing, and disappointing one. So yeah, it is what it is, and we'll give it to Crofty. He'll wrap up the race and talk to you after that.
And here's our winner, pulling their Ferrari into Parc Fermé after a fantastic race. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, they have a car that comes alive in the conditions that we were dealing with today. It's a very balanced package in the wet, and what that means is the drivers have confidence to attack. Having that confidence gets you on the power earlier, gets you on the brakes later, and can put you a long way up the road.
Looking at the podium, you can see that red suit familiar to fans across the globe. A world-class win for a world-class team. Ferrari, do it again.
So, Carlos Sainz winning his first Grand Prix of the season, his first Grand Prix in Formula 1. Both happens in the game and in real life. Pretty cool stuff for him. Verstappen beating Leclerc to second as well is a good result for him, considering the Ferrari is probably a little bit quicker at this stage. So Leclerc picks up a third place finish. We know what kind of skills Verstappen shows in the rain. So a great win though for Carlos here this afternoon, and disappointing result for us with the DNF. Ricciardo actually gets past Gasly in the end to finish 9th, and Gasly picks up the final point in 10th. Perez 4th, Russell beating Hamilton to 5th, and then Alonso and Magnussen in 7th and 8th. So, difficult race. Didn't really have the pace of the other midfield cars around us in the rain, and yeah, it showed. I think we dropped. Ricciardo and Gasly put a pit stop on us, but they also somehow got ahead of the other drivers. Don't know when, but they did. Like Schumacher and Bottas. Don't know when they got past them, but they did. Norris did a weird 2-stop, so same as Yuki. Don't know if they must have had damage, but yeah, disappointing for us to not finish. Same as Oscar. I don't know what his problem was, but he obviously had a problem. And yeah, but that's wraps up this particular race. We're still 5th. We've dropped to 5th now in the constructors. Mercedes have passed us, but that's no surprise. That was always going to happen. They had a poor start to the first 2 Grand Prix, so yeah, difficult one. And we're going to come back at Imola in the next race stronger. I apologise if you hear me stiffly throughout this video, just a little bit under the weather, but that's okay. Yeah, not the best weekend for our home race. Double retirement, and yeah, really disappointing actually. So to crash out like that, and I don't know, it's really difficult to get the traction right. I mean, I was in 5th gear and I was putting the power down as smoothly as I possibly thought I could, and I still lost it. So disappointing, but it is what it is. We'll move on to the next race. We've got 1,166 resource points to use, so we'll put that to use. We'll see what we can do, and durability is what I'm looking at, because Oscar's retired 2 consecutive Grand Prix in a row. So I think we can make an improvement in this area of the car. That could really help us, and the turbo is the part we're going for. So I wish it would tell me which part that it failed on Oscar's car the last 2 Grand Prix, because then maybe I could have a look at those areas. But anyway, we'll advance now, and we've got
Our new parts have completed without issue. They'll be on the car ready for the next race.
We've got a marketing event here, and it's actually selecting your new rival. I don't think there's any interviews in this year's game. I haven't had one yet. So I believe this is just how we pick our rival now, and I'm just going to go with Yuki Tsunoda because it's easier. There's no benefit in a claim level like I think there has been in previous years, so we'll go with Yuki.
Well. Thank you.
And yeah, we'll head to the next Grand Prix, Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. So looking forward to that one. We've got an aero part on the car. I think that was a drag bit, so some reduced drag. We're going to add another part here. I think that's some rear downforce, so that should help with traction. But anyway, guys, I hope you did enjoy this video. Please leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more F1 content. League racing to start soon. But until then, I'll see you guys next time for this one in Italy. Till then, goodbye.